9:30, and I'll call the meeting to order. And normally, first item of business would be approval of the agenda, but first I'm going to turn it over to CAO Adley.
Thank you, Warden, and I'd just like to, for members of council, like to take the opportunity to provide an update and announcement on our Permanent Director of Human Services role. So, as council knows, we've been going through a competition for that role, and I'm pleased to announce that Rebecca Smith, here with us as the acting director, is the successful incumbent for the role and will be taking it on a permanent capacity. So, I think council is obviously very familiar with Rebecca and her work over the years in the housing portfolio, her work on the housing strategy, recently in the acting role with the completion of the service delivery review and the homelessness response plan. But I can tell you through a comprehensive competition with both internal and external candidates, the thing that stood out the most with Rebecca and her candidacy was her leadership. And, and it's for that reason, I'm very happy to announce that Rebecca has accepted that position, and effective actually as of Monday, it was immediate since she was in the acting role anyways, taking on that. So I'd like to congratulate and introduce Rebecca to council as that permanent role. Congratulations, Rebecca.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, and I think I can safely speak on behalf of council our continued confidence from when she was in the acting role to continuing in the permanent role, and also the collective relief from council that on a file that is so of the moment in 2025 and going forward that we have that stability and leadership. That's brought us the policies that we've adopted over this term, continuing on into the rest of the term. So, with that, then, next item of business is approval of the agenda. Councillor Peterson.
Congratulations. Moved by Peterson, second by Tate. Resolve that the agenda be approved.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Having adopted the agenda, are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? Not seeing any. Adoption of the council minutes of the previous meeting. Councillor Tate.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Golvesi. Resolved that the council minutes of May 14th, 2025 be adopted.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And public meetings. Councillor Golvesi.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Tate. Resolved that council rise and go into a public meeting pursuant to the Planning Act, and that the warden chair the public meeting.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And I will turn it over unusually. Director Michaels is not here today. He's at a conference, so I'm going to turn it over to Mark Davidson, Senior Development Planner, to speak to the application. Official Plan Amendment OP 24-13-6. Mark.
Thank you, Warden. So the subject lands are situated on the north side of Charles Street East, lying between Pemberton Street and Mutual Street, municipally known as 169 Charles Street East in Ingersoll. The surrounding land uses are predominantly single detached dwellings and duplexes along Charles Street East. Lands owned by the town of Ingersoll, zoned open space to the rear, as well as the Canadian Railway to the north, and existing industrial uses to the north of the rail line. So the purpose of the application is for an official plan amendment to redesignate the lands from low-density residential to medium-density residential, and that's to facilitate the construction of 2 new multiple-unit residential structures, each containing 4 units, for a total of 8 units on the property, and the existing converted dwelling is proposed to be removed. So the proposed density is 45.9 units per hectare, which would fall within the range of the medium density densities of 31 to 62 units per hectare. The associated application for zone change was approved in principle by the town of Ingersoll. This zone change proposed to rezone the subject lands from residential special policy area type 2 to a special residential type 3 zone with special provisions to permit an increase to the maximum permitted height and to reduce the minimum required front front yard depth, interior side yard width, and setback from the center line of Charles Street East. Through the circulation of the application, various comments and concerns with respect to the applications were received from the public, with a number of people also speaking at the town's public meeting in front of council. The following comments were received. Upper Thames Conservation Authority noted they had no objections. They did have several comments related to the slope stability analysis, but those comments are minor in nature and would not impact on the proposed development limit. The rail line requested warning clauses to be inserted in all property and tenancy agreements and offers of purchase and sale agreements for all dwellings in the proposed dwellings. With regard to comments from the public, a petition was received with 16 signatures in opposition to the application. Additional concerns were heard from members of the public at the public meeting in front of Ingersoll Town Council. And a letter was also received from one of the tenants of the existing converted dwelling on the property, expressing concerns with the loss of their current housing. So in that regard, staff suggests that the resident get in touch with planning staff in order to direct them to members of county staff that may be helpful in this situation if the proposal is approved. Typically, with changes to the Planning Act, site plan control is not required for anything that is 10 units or less. However, in this case, the subject lands are within a prescribed area due to their proximity to the rail lands. So this application will have to go through site plan control. And that affords the town an opportunity to review that future application, ensuring that there's privacy and fencing and vegetative issues and screening that would be implemented, as well as garbage enclosures to alleviate any concerns with the neighboring properties. So overall, while it's recognized that the proposed development is slightly larger in scale than the existing development in the immediate area, planning staff is generally satisfied that the proposed development is appropriate in this instance. Specifically, we're satisfied that the proposed development will provide additional rental housing options for the town, which is a priority objective from a provincial perspective. Further, only minor modifications to the standards of the zone are required to accommodate the proposed development. So staff are of the opinion the request to amend the official plan to redesignate the lands from low-density residential to medium-density residential meets the intent of the provincial policy statement and the official plan with respect to residential development and can be supported from a planning perspective. That concludes my comments, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from council for the planner on the report? Not seeing any, thanks. Is the applicant here? Do they wish to speak to their application? And when you're done, I'll just get you to sign in at the sign-in sheet at the media desk there.
Good morning, Warden, members of County Council, and staff. My name is Scott Van Scheindel. I'm a resident, investor, employer, and a business owner in Ingersoll. I'm here in support of the application for an official plan amendment to redesignate 169 Charles Street East from low density to medium density residential to facilitate the development of 2 new multiple unit dwellings. My hope is that through this application and with your support, I can further contribute to the continued growth and success of Ingersoll and the County of Oxford. This property was purchased in December of 2023. The lot measures 98 by 193 feet and features an aging 2-story brick house built in approximately 1900. The house has been previously converted over the years and now comprises 4 units, 2 with 2 bedrooms and 2 with 1 bedroom. Approval of this application will allow for an increase of the number of residential units from 4 to 8 and the number of bedrooms from 6 to 24. This will create a much-needed housing product in Ingersoll that is currently undersupplied and in high demand. I'll try not to repeat what staff has already more articulately stated in the report, but I believe this request is supported by a range of planning policy and community considerations. Specifically, the property is located in a fully serviced urban residential area which is appropriate for gentle intensification. The proposal is also compatible with existing residential uses nearby. The development supports the housing diversity and intensification objectives of both Oxford County and the town of Ingersoll. The site design will conform to municipal standards for access, parking, and landscaping. It is consistent with the provincial policy statements. And finally, it is an associated application for zone change has been considered and approved in principle by the Council of the Town of Ingersoll. For these reasons, I respectfully request your support and approval of this application to redesignate 169 Charles Street East to medium-density residential. Thank you for your consideration. I welcome any questions.
Thank you. Questions from council for the applicant? Councillor Schaefer.
Thank you, Warden. Through you to the applicant. The existing tenants in the property, will they be given any priority consideration for accommodation in the new buildings?
Certainly, I've welcomed them to apply. There will obviously be a time between the eviction and construction, so there will be a lag there in housing affordability. But what I have committed to is providing them options if I have any other properties or vacancies available, that they'll be notified and have the opportunity to move into one of those.
Councillor Mayberry.
Thank you, Warden. I'm just curious, I think you said there'd be 24 bedrooms?
That's correct. So these units will all be 3-bedroom, basically the same floor plan, 4 units.
And the reason I ask is that tends to make one think that these are all more family-oriented rather than studio or single bedroom, you know, that somebody might want.
That is the intention, to provide a product that is kind of the missing middle, as it can be referred to. Most investors, most apartments typically try and kind of cram everything in. I don't know if you've heard the term shoebox condos or anything like that, but we're trying to avoid that. We're trying to create a product that people want to live in. If housing affordability continues to be an issue, this would facilitate the ability to raise a family in 3 bedrooms, or downsize, or create an opportunity for senior living.
If I may, I'm just curious then, what are the amenities in the close, or, you know, kind of in the neighborhood for children?
So there's a nearby park within about 800 meters walking distance. The arena is also within a kilometer's distance of walking. Through the site plan application, we do anticipate putting some amenity space on the site. We do need to fully engineer the site and see what's available, but we hope to be able to create some sort of gathering space for families and children.
Any other questions? Thank you. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak to this application? Is there anyone online? Nobody? Okay. And good. All right. All right, then, we will go on to application for official plan amendment OP 25-03-6. Mark, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Warden. So the purpose of official plan amendment is to redesignate the subject lands from service commercial to residential and high-density residential to facilitate the development of a 5-story, 49-unit apartment building in the town of Ingersoll. So the subject properties are located on the north side of Bell Street, lying between Scorefield Drive and McKean Street, and are municipally known as 412 Bell Street. So an associated application for zone change was approved in principle by Ingersoll Town Council to rezone the lands from highway commercial to special residential type 5 special provision, with a number of site-specific provisions to facilitate the proposal, including reductions in the minimum required lot area per unit, minimum required amenity area, parking, and children's play area requirements. So in support of the application, it's been planning justification report was provided, a servicing feasibility study, and a shadow impact analysis. Also, a traffic impact study, a stormwater management plan, and a functional servicing report will also be required as part of the site plan process to the satisfaction of the town. So the subject lands previously contained a single detached dwelling and accessory building, which has been removed. The site is 1.22 acres in size, with approximately 193 feet of frontage on Bell Street and a depth of about 320 feet. Surrounding land uses consist of single detached dwellings to the north, an eating establishment to the west, residential uses to the south, and lands designated service commercial to the southwest and east. Through the circulation of the applications, comments were received from Southwestern Public Health in support of the application. The County Public Works Division provided a number of technical requirements, and those will be addressed at the time of site plan control. The Town of Ingersoll Engineering Department also provided a number of technical comments, and those would also be addressed at the time of site plan control. Both indicated that they had no concerns with the requested official plan amendment and zone change application. With regard to concerns from the neighbors and the public, a number of emails were received from surrounding property owners to the north with questions regarding the proposal that have been addressed by staff. A letter and petition with approximately 43 signatures is attached to the planning report as attachment 4. A number of residents were present to speak to the application at the public meeting in front of Town Council on April 14th, 2025. Overall, staff are of the opinion that the requested amendment to the official plan to redesignate the subject lands from service commercial to high-density residential can be considered appropriate in this instance. We are satisfied that the proposed development will provide additional rental housing options for the town and will be as or more compatible with the existing residential uses to the north than many of the uses and forms of the development currently permitted by the existing service commercial and highway commercial zoning that apply to the site. It also maintains compatibility with the existing and future commercial uses along Bell Street. Staff are satisfied that the proposed development will have minimal impact on the adjacent land uses, and the tools available through site plan control can assist the town in reducing impacts on the adjacent residential lands through the implementation of fencing and vegetative buffering, lighting plans, building placement, and garbage enclosures. Staff is also of the opinion that sufficient space is available on the site to provide adequate parking and landscaping, while public recreation space is available in the immediate area to serve the needs of the residents. So in light of the foregoing, staff is of the opinion the proposal meets the intents of the provincial planning statement, and the official plan for residential development can be supported from a planning perspective. And that concludes my comments. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions from council for the planner on the report? Councillor Mabry.
Just a quick question. A couple times you mentioned highway commercial, and then you mentioned service commercial. I'm just wondering what it is.
Obviously, those are a little bit of interchangeable terms. Highway commercial, both are, I guess it would almost be planning jargon. It is a service commercial. It's intended to be something that will serve the traveling public, and sometimes it's referred to as highway commercial.
Okay. But right now, there is no commercial on that property at all?
That's correct.
Okay. It's just residential now? Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the planner on the report? Not seeing any. Thank you. Is the applicant here, and do they wish to speak to their application? Are there any members of the public here who wish, sorry? Member of the public? Yeah. So are there any members of the public here who wish to speak to the application? You can come on up, and when you're done, I would ask you to sign in at the media desk there.
Good morning. My name is Mary Pat Volek. I'm here representing the majority of neighbors living on Scourfield Drive, which is just north of the proposed building at 412 Bell Street. We all agree that the proposed apartment building will bring much needed rental units to Ingersoll, hopefully at an affordable price point. We're not opposed to high density housing. In fact, we're strong believers that we need to build up our urban areas, maximizing underutilized commercial properties where appropriate, and preserve our precious rural lands. This needs to be done mindfully, with careful planning, and with consideration to current residents. Our concerns for the existing community and our future new neighbors are intended to be in the best interest of both. We have submitted our concerns and questions in the form of a petition with a detailed information package, as well as copies of a number of emails that have gone back and forth between Heather St. Clair, Senior Planner, and the Ingersoll Town Council and ourselves. We feel that our concerns are well thought out, appropriate, and valid. It's understood that the Ingersoll Town Council has approved the zoning change with the requested amendments. However, we are still concerned. The proposed building is simply too large for the lot. If it was an appropriate size, the amendments would not be needed for this build. Ingersoll is a medium-sized urban center. We do not have public transportation, and we believe that with the 49 units, mostly 2 bedrooms, parking will be a challenge, particularly with the reduction in parking spaces. Bell Street is an arterial road without any options for overflow parking. Any public parking is downtown, which is over 3 kilometers away. The neighboring businesses like Louis Restaurant and Tirecraft will be significantly impacted. It's about 2 kilometers to the nearest grocery store, and carrying groceries up the hill on either Ingersoll Street or Bell Street is not a reasonable expectation of the stated target audience of seniors and young professionals. The lack of usable amenity space and green space does not present a pleasant living environment for the residents. Placing a high-density structure directly beside a well-established low-density neighborhood contradicts the planning guidelines of a gradual transition from low to high density. It is clear that the builder wants to maximize profits, and there is a pressure to create as much new housing as possible. However, a smaller structure would be better suited to this property. We recognize that most of us don't have any expertise when it comes to zoning and planning, but we have looked to the provincial planning statement for insight, as well as to those who are the experts. Heather St. Clair, Senior Planner with Oxford County Planning, and our Ingersoll Town Council. We appreciate their patience with many of our questions. Section 2.2 of the provincial planning statement indicates that planning authorities shall provide for an appropriate range and mix of housing options and densities to meet projected needs of current and future residents of the immediate area, and that all housing options are required to meet the social, health, economic, and well-being requirements of current and future residents. The submission goes on to set expectations on the various councils' decision-making. The size, configuration, and topography of the site needs to be such that there is sufficient flexibility for site design to mitigate adverse effects on the amenities and character of any adjacent residential development through adequate setbacks, buffering, and screening. This is a tall order to fill given the current proposal. Simply placing the building close to Bell Street and building a fence will not mitigate the impact of a 5-story building on things such as privacy, noise, property value, etc. Our group very much appreciates the level of consideration being given to this proposal by requiring a number of studies. It is our hope that serious consideration will be given to the results of these reports and that Oxford County Council and the Planning Department will meet their obligations to both current and future residents. We look forward to hearing the results of the various studies, as well as being kept informed as this project progresses. Thank you for hearing us out today.
Thank you. Any questions for the speaker? Not seeing any. Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak to this application? So same deal, you can come on up and have your say, and then I'll ask you to sign in at the media desk when you're finished.
Hello, Warden. Thank you for the time. I'm a resident of Scourfield, and I stand in opposition to this. I'd just like you to consider for a minute, the height of this building is probably 3-story, and they want to build a 5-story beside single-family residential housing. It's just not conceivable. Like, it's totally ridiculous in that place. It's well needed in Ingersoll, but it needs to be in a proper space. It's just not conceivable to put it in a tiny little area like that, and it's just insane. I hope you consider my my thoughts and everybody else's and concerns of all the neighbors in that area, and thank you.
Any questions for the speaker? Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak to this application? Anybody online? Not seeing any. Resolution to adjourn the public meeting, Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Warden Ryan. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Schaefer. Resolved that council adjourn the public meeting and reconvene as Oxford County Council with the warden and the chair.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And consideration of report CP 2025-156, Deputy Warden Petrie.
Thank you, Warden. Through you, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Mayberry, that the resolved the recommendations contained in report CP 2025-156 titled Application for Official Plan Amendment OP 24-13-6 1555936 Canada Inc. be adopted.
Deputy Warden, as the mover, do you wish to speak to that?
I do. The challenges that we're facing in all communities is that we desperately need housing, and rental stock is something that we desperately need, that missing middle, as the applicant talked about. We're seeing, as traditionally as found, is that a lot of our rental stock came from converted dwellings, which may not be the most efficient manner for doing so, and as those get older, it's harder. I think this provides some challenges, but some also exciting opportunity within the town to be able to provide that different type of housing that we have struggled to provide there. Certainly heard the concerns from the residents, and I think that with the site plan process being employed, those will be able to be heard. It's always appreciated that those are brought forward so they can be considered. I'm hoping that this will bring 8 new families or current families, whatever the makeup is, to be able to have a quality of housing that is missing within our town right now. And I think that the objects that are been brought forward can be overcome, and it will be a positive development within the community.
Any other discussion? Councillor Mayberry.
So I'll support the application, but I do have a couple of concerns, and one would be around the idea, and I appreciate the fact that 3-bedroom apartments are not plentiful in Ingersoll or anywhere else, but my bias is always towards kind of a mixed market in anything. Like I would like to see singles and studio and 2 or 3-bedroom all mixed together on a regular basis. The other concern I'd have is around the distance for, if these are 3-bedroom, tend to be family-oriented, the distance towards a park, or the distance to the park at 800 meters seems a bit excessive. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And consideration of report CP 2025-157, Deputy Warden Petrie.
Thank you, Warden. Through you again, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Palmer. Resolved that recommendation contained in report CP 2025-157, application for official plan amendment OP 2503-6, Escalade Property Corp. be adopted.
Deputy Warden, as the mover, do you wish to speak to that?
Yes, I do. Thank you very much. This again is a case of different challenges coming forward in one application. We certainly have a need in Ingersoll for a new apartment rental style buildings, and so that's something that this certainly addresses. But you also have the case where you have 2 different types of development closely being brought forward. I think that the residents should be applauded. They have done a professional, excellent job of bringing forward valid concerns in the proper way through county planning staff so they can be addressed. A lot of these are site plan issues, and there is going to be an impact to the community. There's no doubt about it. That being said, this land has other challenges that it's always been identified for a higher usage, whether that be commercial or residential. This land has been identified to be one of those areas where that would take place. I think the changing landscape of Ingersoll, residential is a better fit in that area than the highway commercial was when that highway was more used as a major transportation network. I do believe that by approving this and not sending it to the tribunal, we gain have the most amount of control to be able to work with the developer to mitigate those concerns of the residents in the most effective way possible. They will not be eliminated, but there's that opportunity to mitigate them as much as possible and have the best outcome. At the end of the day, this housing is badly needed, and there's nothing that there's always challenges with every development, but I think they're be able to overcome and provide some good quality housing for people to be able to do. And I know they're going to try to warrant this towards our senior population, which is desperately needed in that area. But I think this is the optimal piece of property within the town, given the location outside of the core area? No, but this is a development that has come forward, and I think that it's achievable, and it will provide a net positive influence to the town of Ingersoll, so I will be supporting it.
Any other discussion? I would just agree with everything the Deputy Warden said and add nothing more. Councillor Gilvazy.
Thank you, through you, Warden. I just have a comment, being familiar with this developer. They're very nice buildings, and they do the area landscaping, like around the building, and they're very easy to work with. So I think that as you work through the site plan process, you'll find they work with the community.
Anyone else? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And delegations, presentations, consideration thereof, there are none. Consideration of correspondence from Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, Warden. Moved by myself and seconded by Deputy Warden Petrie, resolved that correspondence item 7.1 on the open meeting agenda of May 28, 2025 be received.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Reports from departments complete. Excuse me. 8.2 Public Works, PW 2025-34, 2024 Stormwater System Performance. I'll turn it over to Director Abercrombie.
Thank you, Warden Ryan. The report before Council today is the 2024 Stormwater Annual Performance. This is the first time the county has completed this report, and it is a requirement under the Consolidated Linear Infrastructure Environmental Compliance Approval that we received in 2023. The county's stormwater system includes sewers, ditches, culverts along county roads, and we work with the area municipalities to ensure that all the stormwater is managed safely for the community. I'm pleased to report that in 2024 there was no operational or performance issues. We did have one spill that occurred as a result of a motor vehicle collision, but it was fully remediated, and we performed many routine maintenance operations. As we look ahead to 2025, we have some additional sewer inspections regarding CCTV of our systems. We're gathering some additional data, and we're looking on developing our operation and manual and monitoring programs, and can answer any questions council might have.
Questions from council on the report? Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Warden Ryan, through you. You did refer to it just in your comments about 8.0 spills, that there was one spill. That seems statistically, given the number of kilometers and kilometers, thousands of kilometers of roads that we have, one spill annually, that seems statistically low. Is that normal, or?
So that is a low number. We have had higher in the past. It's hard to sometimes quantify, though, because we don't always get notification. So if someone was to spill maybe more of a solid load, they might have it fully cleaned up before we even know what happens. While it would still be classified as a spill, we aren't aware of it. So there was only one spill that we were notified of that required the remediation.
Because immediate, if I may follow up, immediate notification would go to Ministry of Environment if there was a requirement to clean up a spill of this nature?
Through the Warden to Council, yes. So if it was, say, a fuel or a manure spill of a large scale, that would go to the Ministry of Environment.
Any other questions? Councillor Mayberry.
Just a quick question. In the report, it says an annual stormwater inspection program utilizing closed-circuit television will be initiated in 2025. And I'm just wondering, are we going to do all linear, consolidated linear, whatever it is, every year? Or is it on a rotating basis? It seems a bit excessive to do it every year. That's...
Through the warden to Councillor Mayberry, it is on a rotating basis with a small portion. I think we do 1/20th of the system every year. So it is quite a longer period, but it is, you have to remember that also we'll have replacements in that period and things like that. So those won't need to be replaced or viewed right away. But there is a program, and that was approved as part of the 2025 business plan and budget.
So the program is an annual program, but the actual inspections are not. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Schaefer.
Thank you, Warden. Through you, moved by myself, seconded by alternate Councillor Lauder. Resolve the recommendation contained in Report PW 2025-34, 2024, titled Stormwater System Performance be adopted.
Is there any discussion? Just comment that I think needs to be made, because I think this is the unsexy part of municipal government, is actually doing the dirty work of looking after our infrastructure. But I know when I spoke to a group of students from the city of Woodstock last week for National Public Works Week, I got some numbers from the director about how much money we spend on capital assets every year in Oxford County and how much assets we own. And it's $120 million we're going to spend this year on our assets, maintaining and keeping them up, and almost exactly $4 billion worth of infrastructure. So when people talk to us about, you know, where's the efficiency, where's the savings, how are you trying to protect our tax dollars, the 2024 stormwater system performance, as unexciting as that sounds, is the reality that represents a lot of money literally buried in the ground, that if we do not do these kinds of inspections and look after it properly, that will come back as a, you know, horrific tax increase for somebody in the future. So I think this is a new report, and I think it's, again, not necessarily the most exciting report, but I think this is where the tax dollar savings really come, is in actually looking after the infrastructure we've invested in. Any other discussion before I call the question? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And 8.3, Human Resources, 8.3.1, HR 2025-01, Living Wage Employer Feasibility and Budget Implications. I'll turn it over to Director Smith.
Thank you, Warden. Through you to Council. So following the notice of motion received in February, staff took the time to do a thorough review of the requirements under the Ontario Living Wage Network, or the criteria to become certified as a living wage employer. So through that review, as you'll see in the recommendations of the report, we did determine that it was feasible to adjust the wages of our directly employed positions, which is 2 that you'll see in the report, to the $19.50 an hour, which is the 2024 living wage for Oxford, Elgin, and Middlesex counties. However, where the complexity came into place was with our external contractors. So to become certified as a living wage employer, an organization must also commit to ensuring that all externally contracted employers also pay their staff the living wage. So as a large organization who works with approximately 150 external contractors, we did feel that the financial impact of incorporating that into all of our future new or renewed contracts, the financial impact of that was just too unknown to recommend to Council at this time to proceed with becoming certified. So through the report, you'll certainly see that it's feasible to adjust the wages of our Oxford County staff, but at this time we're not recommending to proceed with the formal certification. I will also add that although not included in the report, we do every few years look at our summer student wages to ensure that they remain competitive. We did actually find this year that they were lagging a little bit. So regardless of this report, you might see in future budget years recommendations to adjust our summer student wages regardless. So again, nothing to do with the living wage, but I thought that was important to highlight. And happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions from Council? Deputy Warden Pete.
Thank you very much, Warden, through you. Has the effect of the library levy gone to the library board for consideration and comment?
I will defer to Lynn, but I don't believe so.
No, it has not gone to the library board.
Just to follow up on that, I'll save that for comment.
Councillor Mayberry.
Would it be fair to say, though, that the impact on the library budget would be less than 0.5%?
Through the warden to Councillor Mayberry, it's fair to say that it's an inconsequential, immaterial amount that can likely be managed from the library's perspective within the existing budget.
I wouldn't categorize it as inconsequential. I was just pointing out that the $23,000 or $4,000 that this is going to cost the library is about half, or less than half of 1%. Thank you. Thank you, Warden. Moved by myself, seconded by alternate Councillor Lauder. Resolved that the recommendation contained in report HR 2025-01 titled Living Wage Employer Feasibility and Budget Implications be adopted.
As the mover, do you wish to speak to that?
No, I support the living wage. We had some discussion among some of us around starting date. Like anything else, to me, this is kind of an evolving process, and I'm perfectly willing to wait till the 2026 budget to implement it. Thank you.
Councillor Lauder, alternate Councillor Lauder, as the seconder, do you wish to speak to that?
I can agree with this, and I can understand that they can't have it for the whole of the county with all the projects that would be the projects that there would be contracts for. So I can support this.
Any other discussion? Councillor Gilvesi, then Councillor Schaefer.
Thank you. Through you, Warden. I do appreciate staff's perspective on the external contracts. I would consider that to be government overreach if we're starting to reach out and, to determine what our contractors should have or not. So I thought it was a well-written report. The only thing that I would guess lay caution to, and I know that the director had mentioned that we're lagging behind on student wages, but there's also a 15.8% unemployment rate in youth in Ontario right now. They just, I think, released that number in April, and it's quite significant. So it actually surprises me that over $18 we're actually behind, because there seems to be a lot more students on jobs. And I don't feel that a student wage is meant to be a living wage. I think they still have support from parents and things like that. It's not like an individual that's out on their own. Thank you.
Councillor Schaefer.
Thank you, Warden, through you. I do agree with not pursuing the formal certification, because I think there's too many issues with that. I do, though, have some issues with raising the wages for these positions. I think if our wage rates for these positions were too low, I think the county would certainly be looking at making them more appropriate. But we haven't done that because I don't believe they are too low. And to offer an 8.3% and a 10.8% wage increase to a couple of groups of our employees and commit to adjusting that biannually, the Living Wage Network adjusts their rate every 2 years. It's not fair to the rest of our employees. Are we doing it to correct a wage that is too low? No, I think we're doing it to satisfy a third party that feels we're underpaying a segment of our staff, and I don't agree with that. So I will not be supporting the motion.
Any other discussion? Deputy Warden Petrie.
Thank you very much. When we asked for this, I kind of figured this was going to be the outcome, is that given the nature of the county's work, that it was going to be a very low impact on the overall grouping of the amount of employees that the county has. Given the dollar amount, I don't have a problem moving forward with this. It is such a small group. I think that we do have some challenges in our library system with trying to attract people to that form of work. And when it comes to students, well, this is seasonal employments, they're usually going back to school to be able to, their cost of living has gone up as well to be able to find housing and the cost of schooling. So I think in the long term that this is minimal. I think that we do need to provide leadership. I think that's one of the things we've faced in our society is that the cost has gone up, but the wages have not. And certainly we look at dollar figures, especially as I get older, I get cognizant of the fact that, oh, I only made $8 an hour when I started. But I was very recently in Korea, and I have in my pocket a 5,000 won bill, which is basically $5. So inflation has that account of sometimes we get lost in the amount of dollars versus what things cost and what you actually get for that value of money. And I think that these are seasonal students, and investing in our students can lead to attracting, even if we are slightly better than others, it can attract better employees that may be retained by the county and be able to convince them that this is a great place to work and be able to maintain those people going long term. Is it going to make the difference in people's lives? It's not that much more money. For students, or for, just about we'll go to seasonal students, 6 of them, that's a total of $20,000. Our federal and provincial partners will take some of that from them. So I think it is in some way being able to say to people that we are doing what we can. This is the standard that was set, but another way being a little bit more aggressive in trying to get those students and retain them later on as they move forward in a world that is not as kind as it once was to people.
Councillor Peters.
Thank you, Ward. I will be supporting this. Our township just received our certificate for formal living wage certificate at our last meeting. So I'm proud to say that we're the first in Oxford County to do that. I will support it. Personally, I think it's a barely living wage, to be very honest with you, the way things are going around. We all have seen that with our own budgets in our household. And not all students are supported by their parents, and not all students still live at home. So I will support this for sure. Thank you.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Warden Ryan. I'll fully support the motion. While there's a part of me that would like to be more ambitious and more aggressive and go for the full certification, I recognize that there are a lot of factors at play in the different organizations and businesses that we do business with. I am pleased that in the review, we found that there's really a very small number of employees that are under the current living wage rate. That gives me a little bit of comfort. However, those people that are below that line, this is an impact to them and to their daily lives. We know that 1 in 4 people are working poor in our community, and a living wage helps people afford the basics of food and electricity and rent if it allows them to even afford that. So a living wage of $19.50 an hour for someone working full-time throughout an entire year is an annual wage of about $39,000. I think that everyone in this room would be struggling day by day if their annual wage was, annual wage was $39,000. Minimum wage today, right now in this moment, for anyone older than a student, is $17.60. So we're 40 cents above minimum wage for the students that are employed by the county right now. I would argue that students are people too, and the costs that students are feeling are important. So a student right now that is in full-time college or university, tuition is about $5,000 a term. 2 terms, that's $10,000 a year. Rent on average right now is $750 a month. 8 months, assuming that they can come home for the summer, that's $6,000 a year. Once you pay utilities and internet, another $200 a month, that's another $1,600. If they're going to afford food, and hopefully food better than Kraft Dinner and ramen noodles all of the time, that's another $200 a month minimum, for a total of $19,200, and that's assuming that all they ever do is study. They don't have a car, they don't have to pay insurance, they don't have any medical challenges or bills. And so a student working for the county at $18 an hour, if they work full-time for the full 16 weeks, earns $11,200. That is well short of their annual expenses to be a student, and that's assuming that they can come home and live for free with mom and dad for the summer to take that job. So I think that providing a living wage will only increase that marginally, but it reduces the amount of student debt that that young person needs to take on, and the amount of interest that they will pay long-term on that shortfall. Yeah. Fully support the motion. I wish that we could be doing more, but right now for these 19 summer students, average of 19 summer students in the library position, I think that this is important.
Any other discussion? Councillor Tate.
Yeah, just through to the chair, and I appreciate everyone's comments and agree with a couple of the councillors. One thing that we're missing in all of this, if we're leaders, then we need to think about how much we're spending around the table, because rent also is affected by taxes. So when we make the decisions we make, we are affecting all these people that we're talking about. So I think we need to take the big responsibility on our shoulders and be more cautious how we're spending taxpayers' money, because it's affecting everyone.
Any other discussion? Yeah, fully support this. I think as as Councillor Peterson, sorry, flashback there. As Councillor Peterson said, you know, there are students that are not living at home, don't have financial support from anybody other than themselves. They have a summer job, they work while they're going to school, and that has to cover all their expenses, as with any other adult. The other thing I think is that municipal governments tax people, as Councillor Tate pointed out, to fund police, fire, and ambulance. And we know from Community Safety Wellbeing and other Southwestern Public Health agencies, we know that people who earn less experience more demands for those services, which we then have to tax them and everyone else for through their property taxes to provide police, fire, and ambulance. That says nothing of housing. People not earning a living wage then struggle to find housing at a market rate, which again is pushed up by taxes. Personally, I'm a big fan of having people just earn enough money to look after their own needs, and government not having to intervene as much as we do. But in order to do that, they have to earn enough to do that. And I think this is a commitment that, while it's a relatively small number of people, could be a big difference for them and a relatively minimal impact on this budget, and could in fact in the long run mean that there are less people approaching County Human Services to say, I need help with my grocery bill this month, I need help with my rent this month, which again, we tax people to provide. I would much rather put those people in a position to just simply look after themselves and move along on their own. So very supportive of moving ahead with this. Any other discussion, Deputy Warden?
Thank you, Warden. You brought up triggered a memory there, and I don't know the exact statistics, but I do know that food banks being accessed by students is a very high percentage of the per capita of the demographic. Just for those reasons, is that they don't have the time you get all those expenses. Again, will this change everything for it? No, but I think that we do have to provide support for those next generation that are coming forward, and hopefully that will make them more successful and put less strain on services, as you said. That's an important point.
Any other discussion before I call the question? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And Paramedic Services 8.4.1 PS 2025-04 Legacy Oil and Gas Well 3-year funding approval. Chief Hall, I'll turn it over to you.
Nothing further to add, thanks.
Questions from council? Councillor Mayberry.
Maybe not so much a question, but I'll try and make it into one so that I don't get blamed for making a comment. I'm just curious, in this, we don't actually solve any of the well problems, the abandoned well problems, and I guess that's my concern. As we keep putting a Band-Aid on a problem, maybe we should have started by fixing it. And I realize there's literally thousands of abandoned wells across Ontario, but so far what we've done is kind of, when they blow up, we're ready for it. And I guess that, to me, is always a little bit troublesome. And will there be some program, so here's a question, will there be a program that will eventually get us to actually capping or properly decommissioning all these abandoned wells?
Great question, and through the warden. We've asked the same, and the response we get is this funding is not in regards to the mitigating the wells problem. It's the if municipalities have to deal with the wells problem funding. The Ministry of Natural Resources say, you know, this problem is still a provincial problem and not the municipality's problem. So that's about as clear as the answer as I get, and that's about as clear as the answer as I can provide you, unfortunately.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Warden Ryan, through you. The report talks about year 1 funding, year 2 funding. This is year 3 funding. Was this a 3-year program, or is this it, or do we see a year 4, year 5, year 6?
Thank you, and through the warden, this is year 3 of 3 so far, and we'll see. They haven't told us whether they'll have additional funding moving forward after this, but we will see what happens.
Quick follow-up then. Who is they?
Sorry, Ministry of Natural Resources.
Any other questions? Alternate Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. Moved by myself, resolved, and seconded by Councillor Peterson, resolved that the recommendation contained in report PS 2025-04 titled Legacy Oil and Gas Well Year 3 Funding Approval be adopted.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. There is no unfinished business to be dealt with, no motions or notice of motions. Are there any inquiries of staff? Not seeing any. Motion to go into closed. Councillor Peterson.
Thank you, Warden. Moved by Peterson, second by Councillor Mayberry, that the Council rise and go into closed session to consider report PWCS 2025-35 regarding proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the county or local board.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. A reminder to leave your phone. 10:52, and we're back from closed, and consideration of matters arising from the closed session. Councillor Gilvazy.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Martin. Resolved that report PWCS 2025-35 be deferred.
And do you have that? Yeah. And sorry, your seconder was Councillor Martin? And as the mover, do you wish to speak to that?
No, thank you.
Any other discussion? Councillor Mayberry.
Thank you, Warden. I'm just wondering if it shouldn't be deferred until first meeting in June. Because deferred means deferred forever.
I think
Or can be.
So procedurally, two things I would suggest. One, if you're suggesting that it be changed, then that would be an amendment. Second thing, I would suggest that if it is deferred, it would simply show up on the next agenda as unfinished business, and it would be up to council what they wanted to do with that unfinished business. They could pick it up at the next council meeting or leave it there for a future meeting. If I'm, you're free to challenge the ruling of the chair or have the clerk correct me, but I think procedurally that would be in order. Certainly
I'll
how
look
I
at
would
that.
conduct the next meeting anyway, if it showed up as unfinished business. Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And bylaws, Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Warden Ryan. Through you, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Palmer, resolved that the following bylaws be read a first and second time, 6732-2025 to 6735-2025 inclusive.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And Councillor Martin.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Palmer, resolved that the following bylaws be given a third and final reading, 6732-2025 to 6735-2025 inclusive.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And motion to adjourn, Councillor Peterson.
Moved by Councillor Peterson, second by Deputy Warden Petrie. Resolved that regular council meeting of May 28, 2025 be adjourned until the special council scheduled for May 28, 2028 at 11:05. Sound fair? Okay.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We are adjourned.